Hey gang, way to start a video. I nearly, I should really stop right now and just press the reset button, but you know me, we're just doing it as it comes. So, nearly choked on the Celsius. Compass Games has been lifting its game. I would say this is one of the better titles I've played from Compass in a long time, and very impressed. So much so that I wanted to. I'm trying to balance off my thinking about Bulge games in general with how I feel about this game, and I have this general feeling similar to the East Front, whether it's early war East Front, Barbarossa, or late war East Front. Pick a section of the East Front where it's incredibly one-sided, right? In Barbarossa that as the Soviets, you ain't doing very much effectively doing very much until November, December, and then 90% of all the games that are out there, it's General Winter and Colonel Mudd or whatever it is, whatever the saying is, right? That slows the game down or kills the game for the Germans, because that's kind of the prevailing up until maybe 20 years ago or 15 years ago, I don't know, maybe longer, that it was really all about, the Germans' view was it was all about the weather, not their inability to fight effectively or beat the Russians. I don't know why I went off on that little tangent right there, and we all know that's not necessarily the case. So weather was absolutely a factor, but Soviets put up a damn good defense and got their act together and ended up, of course, winning the war at great cost, and still made lots of mistakes along the way. But eventually, when you're playing these games, it becomes the same sort of expected result, and there's very little opportunity to sort of bounce around the margins of history. You want to be able to get a roughly historical result, but you also don't want some wild, crazy, Germans take Moscow in August of 41, right? We don't want that, but we do want to be able to explore more. And I think systems like OCS do a great job of that for me. Although when I look at the late war East Front, some titles, and in particular the OCS titles, I just don't know that I'm that excited about playing something that looks just literally like a juggernaut of 500 armies and corps attacking 4 very angry German scouts and a Schnauzer. I mean, that's just not interesting or fun to me. Now, it may well be, since I've only played a very little bit of Third Winter, and I haven't played any of the new titles that are coming down the track. Maybe they are more well-balanced in some way, shape, or form. Now, I mention all that as a preamble because we're talking about the Bulge. And the Bulge, most of the Bulge games I've played, I've always felt like both sides were relatively evenly balanced. And my problem with playing this game is I'm also playing Ardennes 44 online at the moment, and I'm having a fine old time. But I thought I didn't like Ardennes 44, and then I played it once or maybe 1.5 times with my buddy. I was like, okay, I get it. I like it. I see what it does. This time around, knowing the rules a little better, and unfortunately we're playing every other week, and the way it's kind of panned out, I am having to be reminded constantly of rules, and so it's been a very disjointed effort, and I think that certainly plays into my distaste for Ardennes 44 at the moment, and it's now having me look really, really carefully at the combat values of all the units that are in Ardennes 44, and especially when I compare it to this while I'm playing this. This starts on the 22nd of December, and we're not even there yet in Ardennes 44. I think we're up to the 20th of December term. I'm playing the campaign game there, but in this I was just doing the late, the high watermark thing, and as I was looking and comparing and contrasting not only rules, but combat values of units, and just the way the game is, the game, not the system, because I love the Zockbond system. I have many of the titles and enjoy most of them. that particular title seems everything, while the rules apply to both sides, generally speaking, they feel like the rules were written and the counters and the values on the counters were all designed to make sure that nothing untoward was ever going to happen with the Germans, number one. And number two, that they net it out. It ends up becoming this really fucking frustrating experience to play. And I don't know why I'm going on about that, because we're here to talk about The Last Gamble, but I had to get that off my chest because it's been annoying the crap out of me for quite a while now. And every time I went to go back to The Last Gamble to play, I felt that resurgence of frustration. So I did pack this game up before I finished the scenario. So I did not play the entirety of the scenario. I think we only ended up getting to halfway through December 24. So I only played 2 days, 4 turns, 6 turns, 6 turns, 2, 4, 6 turns. And I got to the point where, and there's a reason why though, because in my gameplay, I felt like both sides had reached a point where they were almost at a stalemate. And it wasn't until we were going to get some more reinforcements coming in, or there was a significant boost in the air combat capabilities or my usage of it, that it was going to be a stalemate. And to be quite frank, I was sitting there hunting and pecking and min-maxing, looking for where can I get better than 3-1, right? And not in a woods hex, which is almost impossible on the maps for the Bulge, right? So anyway, why are we talking about this game now? And why do I have it out just with all the box and just the rules? There's some really, I think what I want to do with this game, it's almost got me ready to sort of part ways with some other Bulge titles and keep this as my primary Bulge title. And here's the reason why. Not only are there just a massive amount of optional rules, there's also Compass Magazine is also coming out with some additional optional rules that Danny has written up in an article that I think everybody should get if you own this game. You should drop the money and get the magazine for that particular item. I don't know what game is going to come in that game, but if it's the one designer who I think it might be, you might want to just avoid that and buy the magazine, save yourself some drama, and get Danny's rules an expansion for. It's not an expansion because there's no counters or maps, but the additional rules. Now, what I will say about The Last Gamble, because there is all that deepness and breadth with additional optional rules that you can apply that deepen and enrich the gameplay experience, it makes it a longer, more drawn out game, right? I played with some of the incremental rules. At one point I decided, hey, you know what? I don't really need to do headquarters. And I literally just, I pulled all headquarter units off the map because I didn't want to deal with all the command radius stuff. Now, particularly for the Yanks in some ways, because they had guys all over the place. And it just added time to a turn that wasn't adding any value for me as a player playing it solo. I would think doing this with a team of people, or 2 or more, let's call it that. I think some of the extra optional rules are absolutely worth it. Very rich, very deep, right? Pretty cool. There's a lot in this, the rules in this game, and I mentioned the stuff about RN44, just so this will contrast nicely here. The rules here seem balanced to provide both sides with an opportunity to take advantage of the given mechanics in the rules to take advantage of a given set of circumstances, and it's your gameplay and your choice about where you position your units, how you bring forces to bear for an attack, that is going to make the difference in the gameplay versus how I feel about things that work in RDM44. And in here, I feel like better gameplay by me would have had a better result for either the Americans or the Germans, quite frankly, if I had to play better, if I had to take advantage of the exploit capability and the combat reserve capability and used air more effectively, because there are lots of different ways you can use the air in the game. And in some cases, it feels like it's really not going to do anything. But then in other cases, you're like, oh, wow, now that interdiction on that intersection where that village or town is, man, that's having an impact on the Germans' ability to do supply, particularly when the Germans start rolling for units being out of supply based on fuel and all the rest of it. So lots of literally is subtlety and nuance in the rules that really require extended play of the game to bring out all the goodness of the system. And it's fascinating to me that there's that much in a Bulge game, right? That not only are we capturing the history, but we're also bringing together rule mechanics and phrasing of rules, which, by the way, are excellently worded rules. Bringing together these mechanics that draw out the essence of what was going on, and the map aids that with its detail around severe terrain hexsides and how rivers are treated and the different types of movement capabilities, whether you're doing road march or regular march or forced march or strategic movement. All of these different situations that evolve over the course of the game are wonderful and very replayable. It makes you, I packed it up today, and I've been sitting here reading rules for the next game I'm going to play, and I've just started thinking about Last Gamble, about how, well, I wonder if I had done this or this or this with trying to rescue Kampfgruppe Piper. What could I have done differently? And one of the things which Danny actually mentioned to me in a comment on Facebook, he said, you should take 9th Panzer and whatever the other SS formation is and shoot them to the south and to the left of the map, basically. I think it's the south. And get after it down there, because that's where the Americans are thin. But I got so myopically focused on attempting to rescue those units because, I wanted to save them because they're powerful, and I wanted to use them to go, achieve the victory conditions. However, given the way supply and isolation work, it can take quite a bit of time for those guys to actually be eliminated. Now, while they can't move, they can be attacked, and they defend at half. So I would have either, as the Allies, had to keep them surrounded to keep them isolated, or come in and attack them. And so that led to a whole decision-making cycle for me that I made bad choices as the Allies. I said, well, I've got Kampfgruppe Piper locked up, so we're just going to let them sit there and they'll roll, and eventually they'll kill themselves off, right? Big mistake, because when Second Armored came in, what it should have done versus going, east, they should have gone west and knocked out Kampfgruppe Piper, and then I would have had a free armored division that I could have gone and pounded the Germans somewhere else. And there's that sort of decision making that really makes the game far more interesting than not, I guess, is the point I'm trying to make. Anyway, so look, 15-minute ramble here. I want to get this game out again and play it. I would love to play this opposed. So as soon as the Vassal module comes out, I'm pretty picky about who I play with online. It's no offense to anybody. I don't want to play with rules lawyers, and I'm happy to do do-overs with people. Super flexible. Just talk to, at the moment I'm only playing with 1 or 2 people. and we often do do-overs, and not just me doing do-overs, but my partner doing do-overs as well. So I'm keen, maybe a team play. I would love to do maybe a team play, maybe two guys aside, playing Last Gamble, split the armies up or whatever. Like I know the Germans, we could split them up with the two armies pretty easy. And then maybe two or three folks for the Yanks, two or an overall commander, and then two guys. I don't know, something like that. Anyway, I'm super curious to get into the game that way, and absolutely would love to potentially play it at a con. So there's that. I'm going to leave it at that. If you don't own a copy, there's very little errata floating around for this thing. I don't know if they're going to do a second print run. I don't know how many they printed. I don't know how many are available. But it's a really, really good game. And I think that I like it a lot more than I initially thought I would. And I'm glad I purchased it. And I'm looking forward to, well, I don't know if Danny will do anything else, but I'd love to see Danny apply this to Herkin Forest or some other campaign on the Western Front that could take advantage of his rule system here, because it's a lovely redevelopment of what was a little bit of a mess the first time around. So I think this is a job well done, and I'm looking forward to getting it on the table again. All the best, folks. Talk to you soon. Go roll some dice.